Navigate the land of a thousand dances? I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Trân trọng kính mời quý đồng hương tham dự và khám phá thêm về thành phố Seattle của chúng ta tại Pier 62 với các sự kiện và chương trình miễn phí trong mùa hè, các hoạt động thân thiện với gia đình như ca vũ nhạc kịch, xem nghệ thuật, yoga, kể chuyện, lớp học, thể dục và nhiều tiết mục khác nữa. Tất cả đều miễn phí cho quý vị vui chơi với nhau. Hãy truy cập trang mạng waterfrontparkseattle.org để biết lịch trình của mùa hè này.
All of us have struggled through the COVID-19 pandemic, and many of our communities have been particularly hard hit. Some things definitely need to change, but a few things should stay the same, like protecting your child from serious diseases you can prevent now. Preventable diseases like measles, mumps, and whooping cough. Is camp, childcare, or in-person school on your family's agenda? Give your child a healthy and safe summer and school year by making sure they're up to date on vaccinations and well child visits. You have the power to protect. Call your healthcare provider to find out what vaccinations your child is due for and make an appointment today. If you need help finding a provider, visit parenthelp123.org or call the Help Me Grow Washington hotline at 1-800-322-2588. An interpretation is available.
Women are not an homogenous group.
We face discrimination differently depending on factors such as ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, and more.
Rainier Avenue Radio is proud to amplify women's voices.
They are the experts of their own lives, initiating conversations within their community about challenges they face, the solutions they're working on, and the opportunities they see.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 for Women's Voices on Air. We know our challenges. We are the experts of our lives.
We are master multitaskers, prioritizing our family, friends, and our faith above our own needs.
Our needs and voices are too often overlooked.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. for Women's Voices on Air.
We tell our stories in our own way.
Quý vị có muốn kết nối với cộng đồng người Việt tại Seattle? Chỉ cần quảng cáo trên báo Người Việt Tây Bắc, tờ báo tiếng Việt lâu đời nhất trong khu vực của chúng ta. Xin hãy gọi 206-722-6984.
You know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is Afternoons with Monique, recording live in Seattle, Washington, every Thursday at 1 p.m.
You are tuned in to your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio. Afternoons with Monique is on right now, hosted by Monique Lay. She will be interviewing Kim Witzig, a managing broker at Windermere Real Estate. However, we'll be starting momentarily, so stay with us right here on Rainier Avenue Radio, community radio station. We will begin with Afternoons Monique shortly, so stay with us and enjoy these tunes, which we'll play for you in here in the background as soon as the ad ends. There we go. On Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station. Stay with us. Monique Lay's Afternoons with Monique starting shortly.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Monique from Afternoons with Monique. You're on Rainier Avenue Radio. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming to my show a real estate broker who I deem in high regards. He has been in the community for over 22 years and managing a lot of transactions in King County and beyond. Please welcome to my show, Kim Witzig.
Hi, Monique.
Good afternoon, Kim. It's been a long time. I haven't seen you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on my show and sharing with us your realtor expertise and a little bit about your history as well. I am hoping to share with our audience today the real estate market, a little bit of update and maybe some insight that a veteran broker like yourself could share with the audience about how to work with a broker and how to have a smooth transaction in a real estate purchase or sale of their life. So let's start with a little bit about your history. Where are you from, Kim?
Originally from Central Illinois.
And how long have you been, sorry, the volume is a little bit down here. Okay. And how long have you been in the Washington State area? What brought you here?
I moved here in 1995 and spent 3 years in the mortgage industry, and I've been with Windermere since 1999, for 22 years.
Right. Now, where did you grow up? Were you from around here, or were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Illinois, Central Illinois.
And I understand that before you joined the real estate industry and became a broker, you were a fraud investigator. How did you get into that?
I was originally in law enforcement in the Air Force, and after the Air Force, I ended up in corporate theft and fraud investigations, primarily in the Los Angeles market.
And how long did you do that, Kim?
14 years after serving in the military.
Wow. And how did you make the transition from fraud investigation to real estate? Tell us about that.
Well, I got a call from my brother one day, and he said, "Hey, why don't you move up to Seattle, get into the mortgage industry? It's safer, and it's beautiful up here." So I came up and loved it. Lived all over the country and the world, and this is my favorite place of all.
Right? It is a beautiful place to be. Looking outside my window, lots of greenery. We have such a beautiful place. Now, the real estate market, let me just touch on this, because the last couple of years, things have been really hard for sellers. And we have a scenario where there are multiple offers and people competing for real estate. And it's difficult to know what to do when you don't have a lot of inventory. First of all, is that still going on? Is that still the case? Do you think that's going to be the same going forward the next couple of years here?
I do believe we've been in a seller's market primarily for the past 5 years, and the inventory just keeps getting lower and lower, which then breeds a competitive environment when there's very, very few homes to purchase, and there's a lot of buyers, a lot of pent up demand, which leads to multiple offer scenarios. And I don't see it changing anytime soon because I don't see the supply and demand changing.
What do you think attribute to that high level of demand in this region?
I would say it's a combination of strong employment. We have a lot of large tech companies in the area, certainly Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and many others, and Boeing, and so on. So we have very strong employment, which draws people to our region. And we have a limited number of houses to start with because we can't build on the water. We have the bay, we have Lake Washington, we have mountains, and we have valleys that flood. So it really limits the land available to build on.
Right. Now, can you tell, do you work more with the buyer or seller?
I would say my business is about 70% sellers, 30% buyers.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to know what to expect. Usually people, when they want to go purchase a house, we tend to just look at how many beautiful houses we're going to see and looking toward envisioning the future. But the transaction of real estate is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, purchase in many people's lifetime. So it's could be fraught with anxiety, and especially in the seller market as a buyer, could be very nerve-wracking. So how can you tell us the process of how you usually work with buyers first?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Buyers, it is usually their largest transaction, so they are nervous, especially if it's their first purchase. And it's our responsibility to educate them to the process, getting them pre-approved with a quality lender, letting them know what the market's like, how competitive the environment is,
right,
and structuring offers to give them a competitive edge.
Mm-hmm. And what about seller? How do you work with sellers? How do you help them have a good transaction as well?
Sellers, it starts with, as with buyers, with the seller, you determine what their goals are, what their timeline is, and the reason why they're selling, etc. And then, of course, you look at, what kind of value enhancement opportunities their particular home may have. You make those enhancements so that they can maximize their return when they do sell it. And so it's quite the process because sellers don't do it any more often than the buyers do, really. So, just guiding them through the process and keeping them informed helps keep their anxiety lower.
Now, you're with Windermere. How long have you been there?
22 years,
22
since
years.
1999.
And are you a managing broker there? I think I saw
Yes,
that.
I'm a managing broker out of one of the Kirkland offices.
And outside of managing those, you also is an instructor, and you were on the board of ethics for what is this? Something standard of care or standard of for Windermere. Can you tell me about that?
Well, Windermere selects one broker per office to serve on the Windermere Standards of Practice Committee. I served on that committee for approximately 8 years. I since relinquished my position to let somebody else serve on that committee, and have been Windermere's purchase and sale agreement contract instructor for the past 13, 14 years.
Right. Do you think that your past as a fraud investigator experience help in any way in the new profession as a realtor?
Yes, fortunately, some of my training as a police officer and an investigator is applicable, such as neurolinguistics programming, which is the study of body language, and how to read people, and I decipher a lot of out of what people say and such in body language to help my clients get to a favorable end result.
Right. I met you must have been close to, I don't know, 12 years ago. And in that time, you were in the region and handling many transactions. Can you tell me what these days I see a lot of people joining the real estate profession. Everybody seem to be able to jump in, and some of them don't make it, they jump out. What is the average number of transaction let's say a decent realtor, an average realtor would usually handle a year?
Well, nationally, if you probably look at realtors, not realtors, but real estate brokers or real estate agents across the nation, I would imagine the average agent does 4 to 6 transactions a year, but realizing that some of those people are doing it part-time, or it's a second job for them. Full-time brokers are going to do, considerably more than that. I would imagine the average is going to go up from 6 to 12 nationally for a realtor, and it goes up from there.
And how many have you handled in your years of selling and buying real estate?
Approaching 500 transactions.
And that's turned out to be about what, 20 something transactions average a year?
23 a year. Yeah.
Well, that's, I would consider a considerable amount of work. You must be very busy.
Full-time realtors stay very busy in this market, and the longer you're in, it seems like the busier you get because you have a larger client base and a larger following. So it is very time consuming. It's a love-hate relationship, as most professions are.
Right. It's a hot real estate market, and a lot of people have to forego inspections and contingencies, which put a lot of buyers, especially first-time home buyers, at risk of getting a bad purchase. Like I would imagine you move into a house, you discover all kinds of problems with the maintenance of the house that you may have foregone because of the competitive market and you wanted to get a place. How does buyers leverage a realtor knowledge to get a good enough, safe enough investment or safe enough purchase when they come to look at real estate and put in bids and offers?
I think that buyers, they need to work with, in my opinion, an experienced broker that has their best interest as their priority. And it is a competitive environment. So yes, we do represent buyers that are needing to waive inspection and other contingencies in order to be competitive. You have to educate your buyers as to what you see in each house as you're touring your buyers, and they will quickly realize your experience that you're pointing out the negative as well as the positive factors of each house. Older houses, of course, have more risk when you waive an inspection than a newer home typically. But in this market, you can either do a pre-inspection if they allow you before you write your offer. Sometimes sellers are offering pre-listing inspections, or you have to waive the inspection. And you just have to educate your buyers to the financial risk of what typically shows up on an inspection report so they can make an educated decision.
Can you tell us about the standard of practice, which is the board that you were on? What can a buyer or even a seller expect from a realtor who represent their best interest in buying a house? Is there a standard that all realtors must meet? Can you tell us some of the specifics so that a first-time home buyer doesn't just come walking in surprised to find out that is a lot of things that they don't know about, like how many houses is typical for me to look at before I should consider putting in the offer, or am I imposing too much on my agent to make them go show you so many houses? How many can I look at before it become too much, right? These are questions that at time will cross a buyer's mind when you work with a broker.
Yeah, buyers can get information overload, as we all can. And when you're going out and looking at homes, I when I was a younger broker, I would show them 12, 13, 14 houses in a day, but it becomes a blur to the buyer and even to the agent. So I have since transitioned to recommending that we don't look at more than typically about a half a dozen homes in a given day, so that the buyers can keep them straight and keep, remember which house had various features that they were attracted to. So that's one thing. As far as the number of houses they need to see, that's part of the initial conversation I have with them, that sometimes you're going to need to see 10 or 20 houses to find a good one. And sometimes you may get lucky and it's one of the first few houses you see. It's typical when you see a house and you really like it, but you only have seen one or two houses, to want to see more. Sometimes though, that house is gone by the time you gain that experience to come back. So you just have to educate them. It's their decision. You're just there to guide them along, the process.
I see. Let's see. I wanted to also ask you about the material that you teach. You teach Windermere purchase and sales contract. You seem to be very knowledgeable about contract, and you are somebody that new realtors signing on with Windermere would come to and learn from you. What kind of things do you teach them there?
Well, the purchase and sale agreements are just a critical component to their success. And my goal is to take their contract competence and their personal confidence levels to a much higher level during the class. So I teach them the intricacies of the contract documents. They're pre-printed documents created by attorneys, but you have to understand what your client is signing. And you have to be able to, at a minimum, paraphrase what the contract is telling them their obligations are.
Now, is this a contract that usually a realtor present in front of a client at the beginning of a relationship and go over them with the new clients, or this is at the end of the process where you found a house and you're ready to purchase? At which date does this contract show up?
Well, you don't pull out a 20-some page contract up front. You could really scare a client, overwhelm them. But obviously, when it is time to put pen to paper and write a contract offer for them, that's when you do go over the contract with them in detail, so they know what they're signing, and they understand what the seller's obligations are and what their obligations are in the contract.
I see. That's very good. And how long have you been teaching this class?
13, 14 years roughly.
I think all realtor has to take continuing education to maintain their license. How often do you guys recertify your license? And how many credits hours do you have to learn?
So the first time a broker renews their license, it's a 60-hour requirement, and every 2 years after that, it's 30 hours.
And what kind of things do they? What's that?
Continuing education requirements.
And what kind of things do they make sure a realtor must remember, on an ongoing basis every 2 years? They want to refresh or remind people of what are they trying to, what are the agency, which is, I believe, to be the Department of Licensing of Washington State?
Yeah, the Department of Licensing is ultimately responsible for monitoring and disciplinary actions against realtors.
Right. So ongoing in the 30 hours, what do they learn? What do realtors learn or relearn or recertify to continue to hold a license?
Well, the state doesn't mandate exactly which classes the broker takes. They have a lot of classes that they can take that are eligible to fulfill that requirement. There are some core curriculum requirements required by the state, and that changes from year to year what those requirements are. And then the agent can select other classes that they probably feel would be helpful for them in honing their skill set.
Can you give me an example of some of these classes that people typically would take?
Well, there might be classes on real estate law. So we do take, we can sign up for real estate law classes, not obviously to become an attorney, but be familiar with the real estate law and how it, intertwines with the real estate industry and our job. Other classes could include finance, learning about finance, learning about title and escrow, which are other parts of the transactional process. And there are actually literally dozens and dozens of classes that we can select from.
What makes the best realtor?
Gosh, that's so subjective. I'm sure your listeners realize that's so subjective. But at the same point, I think that what makes a good realtor is a realtor that puts their clients number one. Makes they prioritize delivering a great experience, doing a professional job, integrating integrity and trust throughout the transaction, strong communication. I think every client, whether buying or selling, wants to feel like they can trust their agent and their agent is putting their interest first. So, and that means a realtor that's not just getting you to buy the first house you want to buy. It's a realtor that actually talks you out of buying houses that aren't good houses, or at least tries to. That's a good realtor when they actually try and convince you to not buy a bad house to protect your interest.
Right. The care, the due diligence of vetting the investment or the property. I would imagine having a lot of knowledge like yourself, 22 plus years in the business. That's why I wanted to invite someone seasoned like you on the show today to share with our audience some of perhaps even the pitfalls of what to do, what not to do when working with a realtor. So, before we wrap up, any last minute tips that you want to pass on to the audience that you haven't mentioned already?
Well, I think that, the audience, and I know there's buyers and sellers out there, they want, good experience representation. So if you're going to work with a realtor, I would make sure that they're experienced. And you have to get a good feeling that they're, putting your interests first. And it's applicable to our profession as many professions in life. You get what you pay for. So if you want to go with a discount outfit, you may end up with discount results that you're not happy with. So just remember that, it's so critical to get an experienced broker. It's such a big, important transaction.
Well, that's it, folks. This is Kim Witzig from, sorry, I have a chat popped up on my screen. Sorry, Kim. This is Kim Witzig from Windermere Real Estate and a veteran real estate broker, managing broker in Kirkland. If you want to find him, where can people find you if they want to ask you questions about real estate?
They can Google my name, Kim Witzig, on the internet. They can contact Windermere. They can Google Windermere Kirkland, and there's not a lot of male Kims in the industry. There's only about a half a dozen of us, and I'm sure they'll be able to find me, or through your network.
Well, excellent. Thank you very much for coming on Afternoons with Monique and sharing with us your wisdom and experience with the real estate market in King County.
Thank you, Monique. Appreciate it.
Yes. Next, we'll have Shattering the Glass Ceiling on at 1:30. Please stay tuned and continue watching the show. You're on Rainier Avenue Radio. I'm Monique Lee with Afternoons with Monique, signing off.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world, breaking